Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Piccadilly Talks. And I'm so excited for the guests we have here. If you see that my smile cannot unsmile itself, it's because I have Basillia Barnaby-Cuff here on set, and I have Noleta Case with me from the OEC. She's an administrative officer in the examinations section, and Basillia Barnaby-Cuff is Basillia Barnaby-Cuff. We're going to be having a conversation, and I think we're laughing so much because perhaps it is, Basillia, that you found a space in your career that is a living out of your passion, and I don't think it started that way.
No, it didn't. And I can tell you off the bat that if I knew 5 years ago what I know now, I would have gone in a different direction a long time ago. So just to give you a quick background, I am a trained broadcaster by profession. I spent a decade on radio every single day. I was a radio broadcaster on Love FM and NCU FM. I was also a full-time news reporter. And so I spent 10 years of my career just doing radio. I studied television, ended up in radio. Don't ask me how. No, I remember how. I couldn't get a job in TV at the time. And so I said, all right, I know a little bit about radio. Let me go into radio. And ever since I went into radio, I did not want to go back into TV because I found a new love. So that was even a switch from the beginning. Yes, I diverted from what I studied. I spent 10 years on radio, and then in my 9th year, my husband and I, we had our first daughter, and then about 2-3 years after that, we had our second daughter. I was pregnant with our second daughter, and it was at that time I decided I wanted to leave media for several reasons. And I think the number one reason for me was the fact that I didn't feel like I had enough time for myself. If you are very active in media, you know that it takes a lot out of you. I was always on the road. I was always doing some outside broadcast. I was working on the weekend, and I didn't feel like I was spending enough time with my then 2-year-old. And that was the start of my change in my career path.
It's amazing how telling me that it happened after a decade in saying that story, there has been change and dynamism from the beginning. And I think it started that way for you, if I could suggest, because you had the certification to begin with.
Yes.
You had a foundation, you just hadn't found the optimal use of your certification.
Yes.
I want to bring in Noleta in at that point, because I think that could be the future of so many young people that we're not quite sure where we're going to end up. But if we start with a solid foundation in getting a good piece of certification, Noleta, then we set up ourselves for the many options that are available to us.
It's important that you say that. It is poignant, because when you start the journey,
Yes.
and if you start the journey right, and you allow yourself to become and to evolve and open yourself to what can happen, you find that you go to other places that you really never thought that you would have ever gone to. You know, for me, because of my primary school teacher, I've always loved teaching, and I knew I wanted to go in teaching. But you know, I didn't know that being a teacher didn't only mean being a teacher of children in school. And the evolution and opening up, and he said, boy, you know, I love teaching. I got certified in teaching, but I realized I love talk. So
I couldn't tell you no. I couldn't tell.
I love talk. So
Yes.
when the opportunity came to start the media department at church, I got involved in that. And then I realized that I love people. And so I got into a different aspect of education, which was training, customer service training. And so and I thought I was shy.
Yeah.
But when let me tell you, but when you realize that you get into something that you love, you say, boy, but me not so shy. And me no, so I can do this.
Yeah.
And so you allow yourself to evolve. So you start here, and then on the journey it becomes so beautiful that you end up places you never thought.
Yes.
You know what's incredible about thinking you're shy, but having something that authenticates your work. So you'll have moments of uncertainty, but then your certification and your training comes back to say, no, but you know what you're doing. Yes. So the new media space, Basillia, is a space, it's perhaps an awesome example of that. It's like you're going to take on YouTube and you're going to take on these new media platforms and doing media in a different way. Yes. Did you think you quote unquote knew what you were doing, or did you fall back a lot on that media training?
Let me tell you something. First of all, it wasn't a plan. No. I did not plan. I did not plan that. But it happened. Yes. It happened. I'm so grateful to God, because I wrote on my status last night on Instagram that, you know, I'm so grateful for the different seasons of my life, because I thoroughly enjoyed being on radio and I thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing now. When I left media, when I left radio, I was a very shy person, and persons wouldn't even understand. My husband knows, to the point where if we are at church and everybody's sitting, I'm not going inside. I'm waiting until there's a song playing and everybody's standing and clapping, and then I go inside. I was very shy. And it was my husband who said to me, let us start YouTube, because I spent so many years on radio behind the scenes, persons not seeing my face, etc. I became very shy, I think. And then when we started our YouTube channel, Stuff from the Cuffs, I started to, you know, come out of my shell a little bit, but it was not until I started doing content creation. And when I started doing content creation, I was a lecturer in the Department of Communication Studies at Northern Caribbean University. So I moved from radio to teaching. I was lecturing adults. I was the coordinator of the radio emphasis at NCU.
It's very enough behavior. It's very extra.
Listen.
And it's giving passion. Continue.
Passion. I think what drove me to teaching was the fact that I loved radio. I was no longer on radio, but I loved teaching it. I loved helping our young media practitioners to find their voice. That's what I always said to them. And so I was an academic advisor, etc. When I discovered content creation, it was by mistake. I did not mean to join TikTok, but I did not know what I was doing. No, I didn't mean to join TikTok. No. When my husband, he wasn't home, and I wanted to go in TikTok and just look around, but he wasn't home as usual. I would just take his phone and say, babe, make a look through TikTok, and then he wasn't home, and I don't know what I was doing, and I created an account, and I couldn't figure out how to delete it.
You have to press OK for those things.
No, it links. No, it was automatically linked to my Instagram account. It was a feature at the time, so I didn't have to enter anything. I just clicked a button, I don't know what to press, and it just drew all my information from Instagram and just added it to TikTok. And here we are. My name at the time was username 123458821 something. I could not figure out how to change the name. I could not figure out how to delete the account. And so I said, let me try something. And a lot of times I find that for us as creatives, we just need to try.
I was just about to say, it's in the trying though.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
it is in the trying. And Noleta, I love the way how Basillia just described that uncertainty in a space, but being willing to try. And sometimes persons feel overwhelmed at the thought of taking on examinations, taking on certifications, going to a class. Yes. And I want you to talk a little bit about the ease with which persons really can go into that space of learning and recertification that is available here at the OEC, that if you have the thoughts, persons really can come in and even if they're uncertain, they can be supported.
So my journey, I have one road and I know how to get there, and I'm tunnel vision. So he'll say, let's try that road. I said, but do you know where that road is taking us? He says, no, but it can only lead to one of two places. We either go home or we get lost. And so what that has done for me is open up my mind to the possibilities that, okay, so this is the way that but there may be other ways. So you know that you have to sit an exam to be certified, and you're not quite sure how to do it. So when you come to the Overseas Examinations Commission, that's our job. That's what we do. You have an idea, you want to become X, but you don't know the steps to get there. You need certification. You come into OEC, we can sit you down, we can walk you through. We have a professional examinations department where we cater to those who want professional certification. We have those who are just starting out and you have to do your CXCs, your GCE examinations, your CAPE, whichever, and we can walk you through that. So there are many avenues. Some persons think you have to go to a school to do your exams. You don't. You can study on your own. And we can facilitate that. We can facilitate the dream. All you need is a dream. You don't even know how to get there. Just have the dream and come, and we can take you to where you want to go. We'll point you. There are several options that you have, and we can make that happen for you.
OEC, all you need is a dream.
All you need is a dream.
Thank
you need is a dream.
Thank you. All you need. I love that, because I think what it was in our Basillia is that you thought there was better, that you thought there was different, and you weren't sure where it would go, but you found a space that's better. When you think about the journey to this point, and the kind of acclaim that you have, the way you find the time that you now have, when you think of all the uncertainty, what are some of the ways that it was worth it? What are some of the wins you have today that you're like, yeah, it was worth it?
So when I decided to leave my full-time lecturing job, I said I just needed a little bit more time. And I started creating content on Instagram, Facebook, and on TikTok. And I would send them to all my family members and say, send them to somebody, you know, somebody may want a little laugh. And I created content for almost 6 months before I got my first job. No, my first job in content creation, the person reached out to me and said, I don't know if this is something you do, but would you like to create content for us? I'm like, yeah, yes. And I remember when I started out, the money, and I tell young people all the time, sometimes it's not always about the dollars and cents in the beginning, because you know, love cannot pay the bills. Hannah cannot tell JPS, oh, I love what I do. They say, okay, you're gonna do it in the dark. You're gonna do it in the dark, right? And I remember when I got my first content creation job, my first collaboration, I could not believe. Remember, you know, I knew I had the vision. I knew what I wanted to do, but I could not believe that it was paying off. And from that first brand deal came many more afterwards. When I look back now and I say I have worked with over 60 brands here in Jamaica, I have moved from just doing videos for fun on social media, to doing TV commercials, to being on billboards, to having international collaborations. I look back and I'm like, I am so happy that I took that step. That leap of faith is what I call it. I am so happy that I listened to that passion inside that said, you just need a little bit more time to try. And so I look back and I said, if I knew 5 years ago what I know now, I probably would have made the step a little bit earlier, but nothing before its time. Yes.
It's important that we talk about dreams. Yes. The dream has to be your own.
Yes.
I remember my mother, she said, I dream of hearing the heels of your shoes. I dream of seeing you in stockings and a suit. That was my mother's dream. And so going into teaching, getting certified in teaching, while I love teaching, it was my mother's dream. So for a long time, it was fulfilling the dream of my mother, to hearing me go from high school to walking in heels and having a jacket with a handbag. You know, but fortunately for me, that was also my dream of teaching. But for young people, so many of our young people, the dream that they carry is not their dream. And so the journey is hard. The dream has to be yours. The need and the craving has to be your need and your craving. Because if you don't do that, you can't fulfill somebody else's dream in yourself. It has to be implanted in you. So while you follow the dream, make sure the dream is yours. Because then the passion is yours. The will to succeed and to change and to morph into something is yours, and it doesn't belong to somebody else. So the dream is important, but the ownership of the dream must be yours.
You know, sometimes your dreams change over time. You may have started out doing teaching and it was the most amazing thing in your life, but then 5 years into teaching, you realize that I don't really want to do this anymore. Yes. It's okay to step in a different direction. I tell people all the time, it's okay. If you find yourself, and I know sometimes it's hard, especially when you spend so much money and go to school and get the certification and you're now this lawyer, and then 2 years in, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. 5 years into being a journalist, I realized I did not want to be a news reporter anymore. I could not sleep at night. I couldn't, because I kept replaying in my head all the stories I was covering, and it started to affect me. But that was me. I have colleagues who kind of separate themselves from it, and it's nothing. But I knew that even though that's what I studied, even though that was what I was doing for a long time, I knew that it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. So it's okay to step in a different direction if your dream changes.
Can change our mind.
Yes.
Can change your mind.
Yes.
And you know what is, I want to close out with both of you with these questions. First, to you, Noleta. When we think about how we pursue our dreams and how we take ownership of our dreams, sometimes it's not as easy, and sometimes it's not as difficult as we first think. And I want to point to the part that is not as difficult. Sometimes all you need is for somebody to show you the way. And I want to bring it back to the amazing staff here at the OEC, because sometimes your dreams are closer than you think. And some persons don't know that career development and advice is something that's offered here. I wanted to shed some light on that in a minute, so that persons can understand that if that's an issue they have, here is a space for them.
It may be that when you finished high school, you finished with one subject. Then you realize that, boy, maybe writing exams, it's not my thing. And so that fear of not moving further keeps you from moving further. And then you say, boy, all right. So when you come to the overseas exams, we walk you through, you realize that it's baby steps. Little steps that will take you to your goal. And then you realize, okay, so the big picture is big, but when you chip away at it a little at a time, when you go through career counseling and you learn how to study, learn how to manage content, a lot of information, because if you are out of school for a while, and I tell young people that thing about a gap year or taking some time off to work, and then you get back into school, sometimes it's hard to get back on the bike, but just give yourself the chance. When you come, we'll tell you how to do it. We'll walk you through it, and you will see that if you chip away at it, just a little spoonful at a time, before you know it, the bowl of porridge finish, and you belch and you're on your way.
Thank you so much, Basillia, for sharing your story and for reminding us that if we want to make a change, we can. And sometimes the sweet spot is in the uncertainty. And to you, Noleta, for so carefully charting a way forward for so many of us who may be concerned about how we take that next step. Old or young, the OEC is a space for support and career development and an opportunity to change. And most importantly, a space where your dreams can become a reality, one spoonful of porridge at a time. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Stay with us, there's more.
I have experienced career anxiety. My career is I'm a personal trainer and an entrepreneur, and I'm also a minister. Well, I would say it's something that I realized from a younger age, that I always had a passion for entrepreneurship, from buying magazines and selling posters at school. And then growing up into the fitness world, at the age of 16, I started to train people, and by 18 I was certified. It's up until now, in developing my business, Legacy Aesthetics, that I've realized that it's so much more than what I perceived it to be. Yes, I'm certified by the International Sports Sciences Association, that's the ISA, for personal training. I would say to be steadfast in your identity. Who do you believe you are? One thing that you can actually look back at is, what do you have a passion for? What do you have a passion for, and what do you want to pursue going forward? Now, without a steadfast identity and who you are, you can end up often doing what everybody expects you to do, or being conformed to the patterns of this world, like to say, the school, and then you get a job. The school, you get the degree, and then you get the job. Now, if that is your passion to pursue something academically, then all well and good, but there's always something else that's instilled in you, something else that inspires you to want to do something a bit more than what the world does, and what your parents might say, what your friends think that you are good at. Because I've been so good at things, and people said I should pursue that. I didn't necessarily have a passion for it. I just happened to be very skilled at it. I happen to be gifted at it, but it's not necessarily something I'm passionate about. And I'm not saying I'm not going to pursue those things later, but maybe when I come into the full understanding, it can be something more than what I think it is. You have purpose, you have value, and God loves you. In Jesus' name.